5 Mysteries from Alaska. 1. The disappearance of the Douglas C54 Skymaster 1950. On January 26, 1950, a Douglas C54 Skymaster carrying 44 passengers and crew vanished without a trace while flying over the vast wilderness of Alaska. The aircraft was en route from Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage to Great Falls, Montana. Among those on board were military personnel, civilians, and crew members, making the disappearance particularly concerning for both the U.S. Air Force and the families waiting for their loved ones. Despite clear weather and no distress signal, the aircraft suddenly disappeared from radar screens somewhere in the rugged terrain of the Yukon Territory. Search and rescue missions were launched almost immediately, with over 85 planes scouring more than 350,000 square miles of remote wilderness over the following weeks. The search was one of the largest in North American history, involving military, civilian volunteers, and even Canadian forces. Yet, despite this massive effort, not a single piece of wreckage or sign of the passengers was ever found. Theories about what happened to the Skymaster abound. One of the most prevalent ideas is that the plane encountered a severe mechanical failure, causing it to crash in one of the many remote and inaccessible regions of the Alaskan wilderness. With the area's dense forests, mountainous terrain, and harsh weather, it's easy to imagine that the wreckage could have been completely obscured, even from search planes flying overhead. However, others suggest that something more unusual may have occurred. Given the era, the early years of the Cold War, some have speculated that the plane could have been shot down, either by a Soviet aircraft or as part of a secret military experiment gone wrong. Alaska's strategic location during the Cold War made it a focal point for U.S. military operations, and the theory suggests that the plane may have flown into restricted airspace or become involved in some covert mission. Another theory involves what's been referred to as the Alaska Triangle, a region of Alaska between Anchorage, Juneau, and Barrow, now Utqiagvik, where numerous disappearances of aircraft, people, and ships have been reported over the years. Some liken it to the Bermuda Triangle, suggesting that electromagnetic anomalies or otherworldly forces may be responsible for the Skymaster's vanishing. More extreme ideas even suggest that the plane was abducted by extraterrestrials, with some citing other UFO sightings in the area around the same time. This theory, though less popular, remains a staple of online forums and conspiracy theorists, especially given the sheer lack of evidence. Despite the many theories, the fate of the C54 Skymaster and its 44 passengers remains one of Alaska's greatest aviation mysteries. With no wreckage, no bodies, and no definitive clues, the case has become a chilling reminder of how easily one can disappear into the wild, unforgiving landscape of Alaska. 2. The Alaskan Triangle, the Bermuda Triangle of the North. Alaska is home to one of the most mysterious regions on Earth, the Alaskan Triangle. This vast area, encompassing the space between Anchorage, Juneau, and Barrow, has been the site of hundreds, if not thousands, of strange disappearances over the past several decades. Since 1988, more than 16,000 people have vanished without a trace in this remote wilderness, earning it comparisons to the infamous Bermuda Triangle. The harsh and often treacherous terrain of Alaska makes it easy to lose one's way, but the sheer volume of disappearances within the triangle has given rise to numerous theories, many of them unsettling. Some attribute the disappearances to natural phenomena. Alaska's geography is incredibly rugged, with towering mountain ranges, vast forests, and an intricate network of rivers and glaciers. Avalanches, rock slides, and extreme weather conditions could easily account for the loss of hikers, explorers, and even aircraft. Dense fogs, which frequently roll in from the ocean, can disorient even experienced pilots and mountaineers. The area is also home to large populations of predatory wildlife, including bears and wolves, making survival in the wilderness challenging. However, many locals believe that there's more to the mystery than just environmental dangers. One popular theory suggests that the region is home to powerful electromagnetic anomalies. Some researchers believe that underground magnetic fields may interfere with compasses, GPS devices, and other navigation systems, leading travelers off course. Others suggest that these anomalies could have an even more dramatic effect, causing hallucinations, disorientation, or even a type of time distortion. There are also more supernatural explanations. The Tlingit people, indigenous to the region, have long spoken of the Kushtaka, a shape-shifting creature that preys on people who wander too far into the wilderness. According to legend, the Kushtaka can mimic the cries of a child or a loved one, luring victims into the forest, where they are never seen again. Some locals believe that these creatures are responsible for many of the disappearances in the Triangle. Additionally, numerous UFO sightings have been reported in the region, adding fuel to the idea that extraterrestrial forces could be at play. Alaska's remote location and clear night skies make it a hotbed for UFO enthusiasts, and some have theorized that the Triangle could be a point of interest for alien visitors. Over the years, several military aircraft and commercial flights have reported seeing strange lights in the sky or experiencing unexplainable instrument malfunctions while flying over the area. One of the most infamous incidents occurred in 1972, when a small plane carrying U.S. House Majority Leader Hale Boggs, along with 3 others, disappeared while flying through the Triangle. Despite a massive search effort involving 400 planes and 39 days of searching, no trace of the aircraft or its passengers was ever found. Boggs' disappearance remains one of the most high-profile cases tied to the Alaska Triangle, adding to its reputation as a place of unsolvable mysteries. The Alaska Triangle remains a place of intrigue, where the boundaries between the natural and the supernatural blur. While many of the disappearances may be attributed to the dangers of Alaska's unforgiving landscape, the sheer volume of unexplained vanishings suggests that something far more mysterious might be at play. 3. The Fairbanks Four, a case of injustice. In October 1997, 15-year-old John Hartman was found brutally beaten and left for dead on a street in downtown Fairbanks, Alaska. He died the next day from his injuries, and the case shocked the local community. Within days, 4 young Native Alaskan men, Marvin Roberts, George Freese, Eugene Vent, and Kevin Pease, were arrested and charged with Hartman's murder. Known as the Fairbanks Four, they were quickly convicted in what many believe was a rushed and deeply flawed investigation. The case against the Fairbanks Four was based almost entirely on confessions obtained through intense and arguably coercive interrogations. Freese and Vent, both teenagers at the time, confessed to the crime after hours of questioning, but they later recanted, claiming that they had been pressured into confessing. Despite their recantations and a lack of physical evidence linking any of the 4 men to the murder, they were all convicted and sentenced to long prison terms. The investigation was fraught with problems from the start. Key witnesses were unreliable, and some even later admitted that they had lied or been coerced into testifying against the 4 men. Additionally, DNA evidence collected from the crime scene did not match any of the Fairbanks Four. Despite these issues, the men remained in prison for over 18 years. In the years following their convictions, numerous activists, lawyers, and journalists took up the case, arguing that the 4 men had been wrongfully convicted. In 2013, new evidence came to light when a former gang member, William Holmes, came forward and confessed to participating in the attack on Hartman, along with several other men, none of whom were part of the Fairbanks Four. Holmes claimed that the group had mistaken Hartman for someone else and attacked him in a fit of rage. Holmes' confession sparked renewed calls for justice, and in 2015, after years of legal battles, the convictions of the Fairbanks Four were vacated. The men were finally released from prison, but the state of Alaska refused to formally declare them innocent, and the true killers have never been brought to justice. The Fairbanks Four case remains a haunting example of a justice system gone wrong, where race, faulty investigations, and coerced confessions resulted in the wrongful imprisonment of 4 innocent men. Many Alaskans still question why it took nearly 2 decades for the truth to come out and whether justice will ever be served for John Hartman and the Fairbanks Four. The case has left deep scars on the community, and for the families of the men involved, the fight for full exoneration continues. The Fairbanks Four saga is a dark chapter in Alaska's legal history and a powerful reminder of how easily justice can be derailed. 4. The Anchorage serial killer, Robert Hansen. In the 1970s and early 1980s, Anchorage, Alaska, was terrorized by a serial killer named Robert Hansen. A seemingly mild-mannered baker, Hansen was leading a double life as a sadistic predator who kidnapped, tortured, and murdered young women, mostly sex workers and dancers, before burying their bodies in the remote wilderness surrounding the city. Hansen, originally from Iowa, moved to Alaska in the 1960s and quickly established himself as a successful business owner and avid outdoorsman. He was known for his quiet demeanor, and many in the community saw him as a respectable family man. However, beneath this facade, Hansen was harboring dark desires. He began abducting women, luring them under the pretense of offering them money or other favors. Once he had them in his grip, Hansen would take his victims to his cabin deep in the Alaskan wilderness. There, he would subject them to unspeakable horrors, often releasing them into the wild to hunt them down like animals. Hansen's preferred killing ground was the dense forest and desolate tundra near Anchorage, where he believed no one would ever find the bodies of his victims. The true extent of Hansen's reign of terror is difficult to calculate, but it's believed he may have killed at least 17 women, possibly more. His hunting and killing spree remained unchecked for over a decade, with the remoteness of Alaska's wilderness working in his favor. Bodies began to turn up in shallow graves, but law enforcement struggled to connect the dots, largely because Hansen maintained such a low profile. His clean-cut image as a church-going family man allowed him to evade suspicion for many years. The breakthrough in the case came in 1983 when one of his intended victims, a 17-year-old woman named Cindy Paulson, managed to escape. Paulson was able to flee while Hansen was distracted, and she ran to the police, recounting the horrific ordeal she'd been through. Despite initial skepticism from some officers, Paulson's detailed description of Hansen and his behaviors raised enough concern that detectives began investigating the seemingly harmless baker. As police dug deeper, they discovered a disturbing pattern of disappearances involving women in Anchorage's red light district. Hansen, meanwhile, tried to maintain his innocence, claiming that the women he encountered were all willing participants in consensual acts. However, the police obtained a search warrant for his home and cabin, where they discovered damning evidence, trophies from his victims, including jewelry, and most chillingly, a map with X's marking where bodies had been buried. Hansen was arrested and eventually confessed to the murders, admitting to abducting and killing at least 17 women, though many believe the true number could be higher. He was sentenced to 461 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The case of Robert Hansen, dubbed the Butcher Baker, remains one of the most horrifying serial killer stories in U.S. history. Hansen's ability to maintain a facade of normalcy while committing such heinous crimes stunned the community, and his case is still studied by criminal profilers as an example of the dangers of unchecked sociopathy and the inherent vulnerabilities in remote areas like Alaska. For many in Alaska, the story of Robert Hansen serves as a stark reminder that evil can sometimes hide in the most unsuspecting places. The wilderness that Hansen used to conceal his crimes now stands as a haunting symbol of the isolation and terror that allowed him to kill for so long. 5. The Alaska UFO Incident 1986. On November 17, 1986, a routine flight over Alaska's remote airspace became the site of one of the most famous UFO encounters in aviation history. Japan Airlines Flight 1628, a Boeing 747 cargo plane en route from Paris to Tokyo, was flying over Alaska when its crew reported seeing strange, unidentified flying objects in the vicinity of their aircraft. The sighting occurred in the dark skies over the frigid Alaskan tundra, and what followed remains one of the most well-documented UFO encounters on record. At approximately 5:11 p.m., Captain Kenju Toroki and his crew noticed two large, glowing objects following their plane. The objects, described as bright with flashing lights, appeared to be maneuvering in ways that defied the capabilities of any known aircraft. Captain Taraaki, a veteran pilot with over 10,000 hours of flying experience, was baffled by the sight. He radioed air traffic control to report the strange objects and expressed concern that they were dangerously close to his plane. As the objects continued to follow the 747, Taraaki reported that they appeared to be changing shape and moving in erratic patterns. At one point, a third, much larger object appeared, described by Taraaki as a gigantic spaceship, shaped like a walnut. This craft was so large that it dwarfed the cargo plane, and its presence was confirmed by radar at both Anchorage Air Traffic Control and a nearby military base. Air traffic controllers instructed Taraaki to take evasive action, and he began a series of maneuvers to avoid the objects. However, the UFOs continued to shadow the plane for more than 30 minutes, seemingly unaffected by the changes in altitude or direction. The crew of Flight 1628 was unnerved by the prolonged encounter, and the captain requested permission to change course to Fairbanks, fearing for the safety of the plane. Upon reaching the vicinity of Fairbanks, the objects suddenly disappeared from sight and radar, as mysteriously as they had appeared. Flight 1628 continued its journey to Anchorage without further incident. The encounter, however, had been witnessed by multiple credible sources, including both civilian and military radar operators, giving the incident a high level of legitimacy in the eyes of UFO researchers. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, conducted an investigation into the event, interviewing the crew and reviewing the radar data. Captain Taraaki maintained his account of the encounter, providing detailed descriptions of the UFOs and their movements. However, the official conclusion from the FAA was inconclusive, citing the possibility of radar anomalies or optical illusions caused by atmospheric conditions. The U.S. government offered no further explanation, leading to speculation and conspiracy theories about a possible cover-up. The Japan Airlines Flight 1628 incident remains one of the most credible and widely studied UFO cases in history. It has been featured in numerous documentaries and books about unexplained aerial phenomena, and to this day, no definitive explanation for the objects has been offered. Captain Taraaki's credibility as an experienced pilot, combined with the radar confirmation and multiple witnesses, makes the case a cornerstone of modern UFO lore. For Alaska, this incident added to the state's reputation as a hotspot for unexplained phenomena. The remote wilderness and vast, sparsely populated areas make it a prime location for UFO sightings, with many locals claiming to have witnessed strange lights or unidentified objects in the sky. Whether or not the objects seen by Flight 1628 were of extraterrestrial origin remains unknown, but the encounter has become an integral part of Alaska's mysterious history. Conclusion. From the frigid wilderness and untamed frontiers to the skies above, Alaska is home to some of the most chilling and perplexing mysteries in the world. Whether it's the unsolved disappearances in the Alaska Triangle, the eerie ghost stories, or the sinister actions of a serial killer like Robert Hansen, these tales remind us of how little we truly understand about the vast and remote landscapes of the last frontier. As we've seen, Alaska holds many secrets. Some may never be uncovered, and others might continue to confound and intrigue future generations. The allure of the unknown continues to draw adventurers, investigators, and curious minds to this wild and untamed state. Perhaps one day, the answers to these enduring mysteries will be found. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into Alaska's dark past, don't forget to subscribe for more stories of the unexplained, unsolved, and mysterious. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.